Welcome to IT Live, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Joe Cook. That's Ian Boyd. That's Justin Wells. Thank you for watching. If you're here, of course, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. In the middle of March Madness, we're still going to talk some football, but we'll probably get to a little bit of hoops, get to a little bit of Will Muschamp.
Little bit of hoops.
Little bit of hoops. It's one of the best days on the sports calendar, no matter how much you like or dislike college basketball. It is the start of the NCAA tournament, and also Texas still dancing at least for one more day. Make sure you go to InsideTexas.com, use that first link in our description, or use that QR code there at the top left of the screen. 50% off Inside Texas, Rivals on 3, all in one place. Go there for all the best Texas Longhorns insight. We've brought it with basketball this morning. We've brought it with basketball all week. Been a lot of fun talking about this Texas team after a thrilling, though ugly, win over NC State. But we'll talk a little bit of football first, and we got to go over the fact that, Justin, Texas successfully addressed, thanks to the NCAA, their biggest need in the portal, with Laurence Seymore getting his waiver approved for 2026 yesterday.
You know what, Joe? You're right. They did. And I got to tell you, I don't have as much. You're more into this one than I was. Joe Cook was really the one trailing this Laurence Seymore stuff. He was the one that him and Evan were on that beat, kind of taking care of that. We knew he was going to get a waiver. We just didn't know when. It was going to be one of those kind of wait and see. But you know what? Kyle Flood, he got a gift yesterday. He got a gift. They need depth on that interior offensive line. I don't know if he's left guard. I don't know if he's right guard. I don't know if he's a tight end. I know he can play interior on the offensive line, and they need numbers there. They need to figure out where the pieces go. Obviously, he's got, like you said, a Silas Bolden kind of situation where he's got to finish out his degree at WKU. He'll do that. He's expected in June. But I mean, it's big because they need numbers there. They need numbers there. I don't know how great Seymore is going to be, but I know he can play. I know he was all conference last year. I know Charlie watched him and sees a lot of upside there. And so, hey, I'm for throw some numbers at the interior O-line at this point, because they not only need dudes, they need depth. They need numbers. They need guys that they need. They need Seymore more than Seymore needed them.
One of the things that it's kind of one of the sports writer things where you look at it, it's like, oh, second team All-American and, all conference and Conference USA. That's good. I mean, obviously, if he's doing that well to get some recognition from some national places, there's a player there. But I haven't been able to see enough film of him. And again, he was in line, I think, to play at Miami before ultimately leaving, or at least he had picked up playing time under Cristobal before ultimately leaving. But Ian, I think Tax Saver Steve puts it well. He's not going to be guaranteed a spot. I may go ahead and be willing to pencil him into the starting lineup at this juncture here on March 19th. But the fact that, Jaden Chapman's still there, Dylan Sikorsky's still there, and actually getting reps, he's got a competition to win, but this is a player that you had to have if you're Texas in that competition.
Yes.
This is kind of the big question is if he wasn't eligible, did Texas have anyone that would have pushed him? Now we'll find out. If he just walks away with the starting job easily, then we'll know how close we were to disaster. I think Sikorsky, Chapman, Kojo, maybe Coleman might have been options that would have been solid, but we really don't know if they had. We really don't know if they had anyone that would have given them a second SEC average guard. Honestly, we were in wait and see mode on that. Now we know Seymore. I'm not sure exactly how good he is, but I feel pretty confident that he can be an SEC average left guard, which that's what Texas needed.
Yeah. And that's what they didn't have last year. They just did not have an SEC average left guard. When Cole Hudson was playing, it approached that level.
They clicked in the second. Late in the season, they were clicking. You got to give them credit.
Yeah.
But it took them 3 months to figure that out.
Yeah, on the
Actually,
whole,
it took even longer because they came out of the spring not really knowing what was going on.
Yeah, on the whole, left guard was just atrocious last year. So this definitely helps, and it does. I think very, very importantly, it makes this transfer portal class whole. WHOLE. It doesn't leave a HOLE. You get your just going position by position. You get your fourth guy in the quarterback room, whether he in MJ Morris, whether he becomes a backup or whether he becomes a third stringer or whatever he is. You got that fourth guy. Running back, you totally revamp the position. You have two guys who fit outside zone and who can do it pretty darn well. I've done it at a high level these past couple seasons and have showcased some athleticism that we just really haven't seen from Texas. Wide receiver, Cam Coleman, slam dunk. What more do you need to say? Sterling Burkhalter, good veteran addition. Perfect. Offensive line, it had to hit. And you have not only in terms of instant impact additions with Siani and now Seymore, but with some guys who probably may you're looking at more for the future with Sikorsky and Newman, and then Masunis makes your 12 personnel offense work. Like, yeah, you lost some valuable guys. DeAndre Moore. I was still a little bit of a CJ Baxter truther, but I don't think I can do that anymore. Quintravian Wisner, those guys go out the door. Trey Owens, but now you bring in, and it's hard to look at everything and think, oh, instant upgrade, all right. But like everything that at least that they needed, they got Justin and got good options.
They did. I forgot about Newman. Completely forgot about Newman. I mean, that's Jerry's neighbor, and he's like one of the key guys in the whole story. And I forgot Newman. You're right. It kind of does make it a whole, especially, on the offensive side, because, everyone talked about Cam Coleman and who's going to be the running back. Remember, I think there was a site that reported Jaden Ball was going to the portal. Like, it was a big, big deal. Man, I'm going to tell you what, finding a guard was big. And that's so funny because in the Sark era and Flood era, you wouldn't think it would have came to that. But after what we saw last year, they made it whole. Let's see what they could do in the springtime. Let's see what kind of depth they can manufacture this spring. That way, when he comes on campus this summer, they have an idea of who he's going to be battling and kind of how that all sets out. This is going to be a really important spring, guys. Really important because there's so much expectation, but at the same time, they're right there. Guys, they are like right there. We are getting vibes. We're getting 05, 09 vibes. They are right there. And so this is actually bigger than we're even saying.
Ian, do you want to tackle this one from Grant Harris? Tell me how this won't be Sark's best offense at Texas. Tell me why this Kool-Aid is fake. It's March, and I'm ready to spend some money on tickets.
Why isn't this Texas best offense?
It's probably something, Ian.
I think it probably is. I don't know if that bar is as high as we wish it was, honestly.
2023 offense is the best one, right?
Yeah, right. 23 or maybe 24. So I mean, it's not that. I think they can clear that bar. Honestly, that first one, that 2021 offense in some rankings, in some metrics, was as good as any since, which is hilarious to think about now. But the results, that's what the results said.
Didn't he have a Bijan?
Yeah, Bijan and freshman Worthy.
Yeah, yeah. So I know where Ian's going with this. So,
do you? I don't know where I'm going with this. I think this will be the best.
I thought you were about to have some Casey Thompson love.
No.
I think it's one of those things where think of all the different situations. Do you have deep threat players? You think you feel pretty certain that you have one in Cam Coleman. You're hoping that you have one as well in Ryan Wingo. And then also, wherever Jermaine Bishop, any other of those guys fit in, there's somebody there who can stretch the field. You have your outlets with Masunis, Nick Townsend. You have running backs in a scheme with, not only Hollywood Smothers and Malik Brown, but probably outside zone. you have a decent pass protecting O-line. And this is the big one. You probably have short yardage capabilities with Arch Manning, right? Like, don't you have a little bit of an answer for everything? So
I think the biggest thing is just that this year's Arch Manning should be the best quarterback Texas has had since like Colt McCoy.
09 McCoy.
So that's like the big thing. We were starting to see last year we spent the entire offseason explaining how Arch Manning was the solution to pretty much every problem the team might have. And then he wasn't ready at Ohio State. And it was like, oh no. But by the end of the year, we were seeing a dude that was one of the more dominant players in college football against Michigan. So you get that guy back and comfortable. And that should be an enormous force multiplier. It may make some of these other pieces look a lot better. Should.
Justin, this Sark still hasn't done better than a top 15 offense at Texas. Why will this be different? Kind of what I said, but you have skills for every situation. I'm curious, do you think it'll be better this year, or you think it'll maybe stay in that 15 range?
The offense is going to be better this year. I don't know if it's going to be top 15, but it's going to be better. The line's better. The backfield's going to be better. The receivers are better. The quarterback is better. It's going to be good. Honestly, I don't think we're going to have a lot of question marks about the offense. I think a lot of that's probably going to be on the defensive side. And I'm not even saying there's going to be question marks there. I feel like the offense is going to have its own lane. I think Arch is going to kind of run that thing. And I think Sark is going to give him a lot of the controls, the joystick, to have some fun with that. But I want to answer Rex St. Charles' question real quick. Hey, man, I'm all about some Java on this tip money. So if you want to listen, we're pushing through. We are pushing through, brother. We've been working late at Inside Texas, making sure you guys have the best team and recruiting info. And so I'm missing my coffee, my man. If somebody wants to DoorDash me some Starbucks, I would be grateful.
And then
and Ian needs some lotion. Joe needs a spritzer. Like we need a little bit of things to go. It's all right.
So I'm about to pull up SP Plus real fast just to see where Indiana was and where Texas ended up on offense. Because Texas was not looked super.
Oh, that's not going to be comparative.
Indiana on offense, because they were so efficient, they were number 2 in SP Plus.
No penalties.
Texas was number 30, which is kind of a little higher than I thought. 2024 SP Plus, I think they were in the 30s again. And then I'll look up 2023 just to figure out. No, they were 13th in SP Plus on offense. But we saw that, play out against, they were here, teams from here, they would beat up teams up here.
It was there until Jonathan Brooks got hurt.
Well, that would be 2023, and that would be
that's what we're talking about.
Well, yeah, for the best offense, I think this should be top 10. Yeah, number 6 on offense in 2023. So they've had, if you go by SP Plus, they've had top 10, top 15 offenses, but they've still had their flaws. And I think what we're maybe talking through is, no matter what the numbers say, it feels like now, Ian, they've got stuff for all the different situations. And, they know the 8 or 9 different ways that you can skin a cat.
I don't know. I'm not sure if they're quite that proficient yet in like short yardage and running for consistent success rates or not. But they may just be even more explosive and more explosive dependent, but just better at manufacturing them. Because in the past, like last year in particular, like Ohio State gave away so much in the run game, and Texas ran for like 4 yards a carry. And it looked like, oh, that was pretty good, but it was like it should have been 8 yards a carry.
Yeah.
And now they have guys that can punish teams, so they can generate explosives better there. They should be able to generate explosives more in the passing game. If you look at FEI has tended to rank Texas's offenses lower than SP+. SP+ puts a little more value on explosiveness because Bill's like, hey, explosive gains in college football are how you win and how you score, and that your ability to produce those is a better indicator than being really consistent, because just 18 to 22-year-olds are not consistent. So like FBI's number one offense last year was Vanderbilt, because they're so dang consistent at picking up. They just were consistently achieving success on offense, like picking up first downs and scoring touchdowns and stuff. So this team, I don't know, I'm sure they'll be better at that than last year. But they're almost like just doubling down on explosiveness and being like somebody noted, Blake Wright says, didn't they lead the country in 20-plus yard plays last year? I think that might have been true at some point. I don't know if that was true at the end of the year, but I think that may have been true at some point in the season.
So the leader in the group of teams that led in 20 yard plus plays, the leader was Oregon with 100. Ole Miss, Tech, Indiana, North Texas, James Madison, Arkansas, UNLV, USF, Vanderbilt. That's your top 10 or 11. 20-plus plays, Texas had 59 total, which was 51st-ish in the country. So up at the top, at the bottom of the upper third. There we go. And then, but when you go to like 40-plus yard plays, Texas had 16 total. So about one per game. It's just in an offense like Steve Sarkisian's, you're looking for a lot more from that. And there were basically, I'm thinking like one Trey Wisner run against A&M. What other big run play? Oh, Arch's couple runs were for 40 yards, I think. But
they didn't get explosive runs last year.
They did not get explosive.
They left him on the table like every game.
Yeah, and that's something that starts to hit on a lot too.
That should change in a major way now, because you have Hollywood Smothers and Raleek Brown and maybe Niblett running the ball in those opportunities. So they're going to be explosives are us next year.
And hey, maybe Laurence Seymore being the guy at left guard helps him do that. One last thing on that: pretty much every projected March 19th starter for Texas on the offensive line, I think, has like over 700 career snaps. Obviously Connor Robertson's been in the program for a while. I think his snap numbers are diminished just by virtue of having had guys ahead of him for a while. Brandon Baker, 1 year as a starter.
That's a lot of snaps, man.
Everybody, I can pull it up and
that is a lot. The only thing that would be better would be the continuity of all of them, and obviously that they haven't had that chance yet. That's kind of what they're formulating now. Man, that's a lot of snaps, Joe.
Yeah, it's Gooseby has, at least on offense, 1,175. Seymore has 1,328. Robertson has 788. Baker has 873, and Melvin Siani has 1,577. So that is one of the big questions for the portal, I think, in this kind of era is, can you portal an O-line?
Yeah.
Can you
piecemeal one? Not so much the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, at least I think in Texas, in the echelon Texas wants to be in, can you mix your guys and brought in guys?
Right. That's the secret to the success right now.
Because redoing everything in the portal over and over again, year by year, just doesn't work. But
not gonna do it.
Adding guys in free agents
doesn't work, Ian. Don't. It doesn't work.
It will.
Ask Mike Norvell.
Ask Signetti. Ask Lane Kiffin.
Oh yeah. I'll ask Kiffin. I'm not asking Kurt Signetti anything, because it doesn't matter who he's coaching. It doesn't matter who he's coaching. They're going to win. Google him.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of.
We're not comparing anybody to Signetti these days right now, Ian. Nobody.
I'm just trying to think of that O-line.
That guy, what he accomplished last 2 years, he's on his own plane. And Lane Kiffin is still on the tarmac.
Ryan Nelson, I see that question. I think we'll get to that right on the other side of the break. But first, we got to hear from Academy.
Oh, it's an auto worm bite, turns out.
Giant. Oh, it's a giant.
It's a giant, so.
Oh, it's a giant! Oh, it's a giant! It's a giant!
Academy AI at its best. My son sees that commercial and he's like, "Dad, you know that can't happen." I go, "I know, son. I know. It's AI." He's like, "Dad, everything's turning into AI."
Oh man, there's some funny. You can find some funny stuff made up by the computers. This is a good question from Ryan Nelson. What do you think's the ability of this 2026 team in sustaining injuries? Brooks Austin said he worries about this team if they want to go 16 games.
I'll answer that real quick. I worry about every team in college football if they want to go 16 games. Hey, Brooks, you're not picking on anybody any different, dude. Any team that's in the top 10 that has a chance at the title this year, there's a question about their depth over 16 games. So it's really an overgeneralization, in my opinion.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, like it's a violent collision sport. You know, guys are going to get
playing an NFL season now. Depth is going to be a problem. For 2 or 3 years, we've been saying the team with the most depth at the end of the season is going to win the title. So far, that's been ringing true.
I need to hear more about what he's even talking about.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Like, he's filling time. Brooks is filling time. You know, Bubba Sparks, he does a good job, but people are asking him for Texas content, so he's thinking, well, I got to go pick a lane, and he's picking the depth lane. Well, guess what? Every team is going to deal with that in college football these days. And you know what? There's probably 4 or 5 at the end of the season that are in good shape. Honest to God. Most of them are beat the hell up. You got players that are injured that aren't even known injuries. It's at that point. So, yeah, they're all going to get beat up in 16 games. The key is which ones.
And also, like, I'm trying to think of the season-ending injuries that have happened at Texas.
Let's not even go down that path. We're going off the road, man. I don't even want to talk about that. That's some juju.
It's not stuff that good or bad strength and conditioning can account for. You know what? Because, like, if you get rolled up on, you could be able to squat 1,500 pounds.
Good call.
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
If someone jumps on your forearm, it's probably not going to last. Like there are some, I can't think of any like tissue and muscle type things that would make me think like, oh, okay, like this is a problem. And also like Texas just went through 2 seasons. And granted, it was a lot of different guys, but like they went through 28 games or whatever it was over the course of 2 seasons. They had some season-ending injuries, but like I feel like they understand what they need to do in order to last through a long season like that. And everybody needs to figure that one out. So I'm kind of more of the opinion that that's you got to talk about a lot of things. Like we're doing daily shows on here, and here we are talking about Texas left guard and another show. Getting through the season's it's gonna be tough for everybody. It is a problem,
Joe, and you're plugging along, guys. Joe has like 5,972 snaps. So when we're talking about the career guy, it's my boy up there.
Sometimes
the one you worry about is Arch Manning.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at teams whose you're worried about their quarterback, like realistically, Arch Manning is not high on that list. It's more guys like Mateer,
Levitt,
plays recklessly and who is asked to run the ball a ton. It's guys like that where it's like history of injury, history of carrying a heavy burden. That's the concern. Arch Manning, he was so beat up last year and he still played.
Yes,
every single game.
Yes, he was.
So it's like it's not a real. I don't know what else he would even be talking about.
Yeah.
You just
my boy Joshy. Hey, Kojo wasn't even in the rotation, so it goes across the board. Ian nailed it. Everyone's worried about Arch essentially, and look, and man, great point. He was hurt last year, multiple injuries, and the guy looked like a champion in the Cheez-It Bowl.
Yeah, it's like one of the things. What was it? He's like, I'm just going to stop giving an F. I wonder if that had to do with just being dinged up and like saying, you know what, I'm going to go through it. And
it had to, man. The dude had like hamburger-sized bunions on his feet. How was he competing like that? That's impossible. That is so hard to do. He could have taken his shoe off and slapped some butter on one. Like, I'm just telling you, it was incredible that he went through that. Now that he's healthy, oh, can you imagine? And the visor, we're getting visor Arch Manning. Ian, I got to tell you something, Ian. That's different. That's like Darth Vader. Okay? It's going to get good.
I'm excited for it. Speaking of –
hold on. I'm going to ask Ian something real quick. Ian, what's the number one reason the quarterback wears a visor?
So people can't poke him in the eye?
No.
It's so that they you explained this earlier. They can't see where his eyes are going.
The safeties can't read his eyes. So Arch is playing chess, fellas. Arch is playing chess while everyone else is playing Candyland.
I'll play some Candyland. Real quick, Jay, what's Kojo's progress looking like? I think he's been posting videos. I think his mom as well has posted some videos of him moving and working out.
He hasn't adjusted workout.
Yeah, he's not full clear yet, but he's moving, and it seems
Darth
like
Manning.
He's going to be on track for participating in fall.
Actually, I kind of like that, Chris. If we can get that, if Sark will let Manning go with the Sean Taylor orange hoodie, a visor, which he's not, and knowing Arch, he wouldn't want to do that anyway.
It's illegal.
Oh,
it has to be 100% clear, or it's illegal.
In college, pros are giving you a little bit more leeway these days.
Darth Manning would have been pretty good, but yeah.
Ian, you wrote this morning. Will Muschamp's history of problem solving, and it looks back on a forgettable season for Texas. I think everybody kind of understood in 2006 that there was going to be a very strong defense, but you were breaking in a new quarterback. You still had talent around him, but you still had either redshirt freshman Colt McCoy or whatever year Jevin Sneed was. So that was a season that I think people understood. Say again?
No Sneed in 7. He transferred out.
Well, in 2006. 2007, you get in there and you're hopeful after another 10-win season that Colt McCoy takes a step and you can get more out of some of the guys that are still on that roster. But the defense, especially a defense that was under Will Muschamp in his second year or first year, I'll let you explain it. But the 2007 season was not a great one for Texas. And so Will Muschamp shows up in 2008. There we go. And has to do some problem solving.
Yeah. I don't know how well people remember that transition, but it did not look good. Like 2007 was an underachieving season. And then the list of guys that you lost from that team was pretty alarming. So it's like Limas Swede, second-round player, didn't really quite make it in the NFL, but he was the star of the show in 2006. 2007 was supposed to be a huge year, and then he got hurt. Jermichael Finley, Nate Jones, not like a superstar, but super reliable. Jamal Charles, Marcus Griffin, Michael Griffin's brother, who had almost every tackle on defense. Derek Loki and Frank Okam, who were like responsible for almost everything good about the 2007 defense. Future U-Star YouTube commentator Drew Kelson was gone after 2007. They no longer had him. And so it just didn't look very good going into 2008. And we didn't realize, like, on offense or on defense.
Yeah, both sides.
It was like, well, they have Jordan Shipley, and we're like, great. He'll get injured in week 2, and then what? Because that's how it had been every year. They got Quan Cosby, and it's like, okay, he's been pretty reliable, I guess. He's not really a star. The running back, we don't know who the running back is. Maybe Chris Obanaya. What?
Who was also playing wide receiver before he played running back.
Yep. It was not. There was no. Blaine Irby. There was some hope in Blaine Irby, and then he blew out his knee like in week 2.
And gets Rice.
And the defense was, whew, man. Every good known player on defense was gone. Will Muschamp was coming in, and then I note later in the article that it was like spring practice is happening, and it's like, well, freshman Blake Gideon, who all the recruitniks hated because he's like a low 3-star white dude at Oleander. He's starting, and he's starting next to redshirt freshman Earl Thomas, who maybe Justin remembers differently, but I don't feel like he had like big reputation going into 2008. Earl, yeah. He was
Earl wasn't supposed to play in 2008. Robert Joseph was the starting safety going into that spring. And he got arrested for breaking and entering or burglary or something.
Okay.
He got in trouble, and they had to play Earl Thomas early as a redshirt freshman. They didn't know if Earl was going to be ready. He wasn't even the incumbent. That was Robert Joseph. I think he was a Port Arthur safety, if I remember correctly.
I had forgotten that detail about Robert Joseph. So there's that too, is that they'd lost him, and I think it's some other guys that he took with him on the
Dre Jones. I think Dre Jones, former defensive lineman.
Henry James, maybe.
He had a couple. He had a couple teammates with him.
Took a couple on the road to perdition. So yeah, it was.
What a reference.
It did not look promising. When we look back at that 2008 team now on the defense, you're like, that team was freaking loaded with talent. Of course they were good.
You know why?
Did not know that at all going in.
It was all those top classes that Mac had signed. He had just stacked talent on that defensive side, and everyone was paying attention to Vince and Colt.
But they were even like the guys that they rolled in on defense they had a ton of young guys, and then they had a bunch of dudes that no one had any idea how good.
We didn't know if Lamar Houston was going to be able to be a capable, interior guy. We didn't know if Brian Arakpo was going to be able to take that next step. Yeah. Yep. And Sergio Kendall, they had to try to find a position for him. He was essentially like a Harold Perkins in a way that they didn't know where exactly to put him. Once they found a place to put him, they let him go.
So these are a lot of the different names, like Justin mentioned, that they had, but maybe at this point ahead of 2008, they weren't exactly sure what they were going to do with. And so Muschamp comes in. Like you mentioned, Justin, there's Arakpo, there's Miller, there's Houston, there's Kendall, Henry Melton.
Wish I'd seen that list before I started running my mouth.
No, it's all good. Henry Melton gets switched over to the other side, I think, during that one. Was it that year?
Real quick. Real quick. Arakpo he was dominant in the bowl game against the Sun Devils, but that had been like the first time he'd been healthy all year. He wasn't Arakpo in 2007. That bowl game was just like a taste of what was about to come. Roy Miller.
Also, don't forget the Arakpo that showed up. The spring ball that year was different.
Yeah. Yes.
Remember, we heard those stories, those horror stories. There were some fights.
Miller.
He had to cull the herd.
Yeah. Roy Miller hadn't been healthy. He was like a very promising guy, but he hadn't been healthy. Lamar Houston had been playing defensive end. As Justin was saying, they moved him to defensive tackle, and it was like, can he be big enough for that? Is that going to work? Henry Melton had been playing running back. He had just moved to defense finally. And Sergio Kendall had played inside linebacker where he wasn't very natural. And occasionally they would play him at running back because he's just a huge freakish athlete. So you have this like 5 dudes who are all freak athletes, and absolutely none of them had done anything of like particular note in a Longhorn uniform before the season. Maybe Arakpo a little bit. That's it.
So you combine that with just, the turnover from successful teams. And so Muschamp's got to figure some things out. And you say he only inherited a single proven anchor in Roy Miller, and he was fortunate that he stayed healthy, but he has all these athletes, and they put all these guys in the right spot. put them in the right frame and used it for what was a very, very successful first year, as you can see with some of these stats.
Yeah, they were a menace. Muschamp had different fronts and different tactics for getting guys in position to be athletes and just go attack people. Sometimes he would play, I think at times he would play all 5 up on the line, even, and be like, pick which one of these guys is going to wreck you because there's no way you can block them all. And it was like, there were all sorts of questions for Texas. Like, do they have enough true defensive tackles? And do these linebackers have any idea what they're doing? And can these young safeties clean up behind them? And Muschamp was like, don't worry about all that. What we're going to do is we're going to make the other team, instead of them having a chance to attack our unproven linebackers or our unproven safeties, they're going to be busy fighting for their lives, not getting just wrecked before anything can get going by these front guys. It was very good.
As you look at the 2008 defense, and you mentioned that they start waving in guys like Sam Acho, Keyston Randall, Earl Thomas, and Blake Gideon start to make some progress. How does all this, in your opinion, relate with what Texas is doing this offseason ahead of Muschamp's return?
Well, a lot of the principal ingredients are extremely similar. You have a questionable linebacker core in 2026. You had definitely a questionable linebacker core in 2008. You got a deep room of talented underclassmen defensive backs who have NFL measurables and athleticism. In 2026, you had that in 2008. Probably maybe even in better shape in 2026 with some proven talent in the defensive back room. And then in 2008, you had a bunch of freak athletes across the defensive line and defensive front. You have the same situation, maybe even a little better in 2026. So history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very similar setup.
Yeah.
And so I don't know exactly if this will be the same model that Muschamp follows for unleashing this group. I'm starting to think it may be a little closer to this than to Georgia after all, because it just makes sense. But we've seen Muschamp get dropped into situations a lot like this and problem solve and just create havoc.
One thing that I think about and it's an area where it doesn't necessarily rhyme is I'm thinking about, let me look at the 2008 schedule and just think about who they played, because I'm getting to a point here on styles. I've been going over and over about how Texas is going to face, a mirror in Ohio State and air raid and veer and shoot, and then it'll switch to, a very strong like power spread and different things like that. Whereas if you go to the 08 schedule, you've got, I'm going to skip FAU, UTEP, and Rice. And I'll skip Arkansas. Actually, that was Petrino, but you've got Arkansas with Petrino offense, and then air raid, early Bryles, whatever Kansas was doing, and then I think that was Sherman at A&M. So like
Kansas was air raid too, I think.
Yep.
If it was still Mangino.
It was Mangino.
Yeah.
It was Todd Reesing and Mangino.
Oh yeah, because
he had the Heupel stuff.
They were coming off like a 12-1 season.
So like what I mean is all these young defensive players are seeing kind of the same offense every week, or a form of the air raid almost every week in that version of the Big 12. So all these young players were like, okay, we got to do this at this point. We got to do this in this point. We got to do that. And they did it over and over. I wonder how, and I believe the challenge is a lot greater now just because of the variety of offenses that are already on this schedule.
I don't know about that. They had to face that Oklahoma team that was like the first high-level tempo team in college football. with Bradford and Jermaine Gresham.
DeMarco
They had to play pre-air raid Oklahoma State when they were running the ball from the spread with they had like really good running backs, and they had that Seattle Seahawk left tackle that played Russell Okung.
But they also had Dez and Kendall Hunter.
And they had a tight end too. That was an NFL tight end. So Oklahoma State could like run the ball from the spread. Leach had like one of his nastiest passing attacks because he had Crabtree. He had, I don't remember which white guy was in the slot that year. Senior Graham Harrell, big fat war paint dude at left guard.
That Brandon Carter, he was an East Texas kid out of Spring Hill.
Brandon Carter, that's it. And that was actually their best defense they ever had under Leach. They had a legitimately good defense, like Charbonnet and Colby Whitlock.
The little receiver that they had is the current head coach of Oklahoma State.
And then they had Missouri, where it was like Chase Daniel with a pair of like NFL tight ends.
Chase Kaufman and Martin Rucker.
There it is. So it was a little more diverse than that, I think, in terms of the style and also in terms of the players. And also the Big 12 used to be way more talented.
I was about to say, the schedule they're playing this year is almost comparable from a talent standpoint because the 08, the Big 12 in 2008 was formidable.
Yeah.
That was a crazy year in the Big 12.
If you take Florida out, the national championship could have come from 3 teams inside the Big 12, maybe 4.
Yeah, you had 3 top 5 teams in the Big 12 or top 6.
That's back when Texas and Oklahoma were carrying that conference.
Yeah. Because the North wasn't winning much that year. That was Nebraska starting to figure out they're never, ever, ever going to beat Texas. So they were trying to figure out a way to get the hell out of there. So you think my concerns about not seeing a variety of offenses or this, you think that they saw a variety of offenses then? And so Muschamp's going to know what to do now.
Yeah.
I can convincing, Ian. I'm convinced.
They had to deal with a lot of different types of dudes and stuff. Different types of quarterbacks and different types of skill players. It was a pretty good challenge.
Going to be excited to see. We'll get some more. Practice is going to start back up next week with the Longhorns getting Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday going on the field. So we'll be able to hear about that progress. Before we keep going into a little bit of hoops talk, we'll hear from Andre the Lawyer.
Texans know when you're injured, there's one name that gets results. Andre the Lawyer. Trust the team that has secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans win their injury cases. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, wrongful deaths. Don't let the insurance companies tell you what your claim is worth. Andre the Lawyer will fight for you. His principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait. Call 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. Contact info is in the description.
People are hyping up the 2008 Big 12, and I looked up who the All Big 12 team was that year, and this is a naming dude's paradise. Sam Bradford, DeMarco Murray, Kendall Hunter. They had a fullback, Matt Clapp, Jeremy Macklin, Des Bryant, Crabtree, Jermaine Grisham, Jason Smith, Phil Woldholt, Duke Robinson, Trent Williams, Russell Okung, Adam Ulatowski, and Jeff Wolford, and Des Bryant at returner. And that's just the first team.
Joe, did you know Trent Smith went number 2 in the draft?
Trent Smith or Trent Williams?
Trent Smith. The Baylor Bears offensive tackle went number 2.
Jason Smith. Yeah.
Jason Smith. Jason Smith went number 2 in the draft. I'll never forget that.
There's like 3 or 4 all-time Big 12 offensive tackles on that list. It's like Smith and Trent Williams and Russell Okung are all NFL mainstays.
In some circles, people think Trent Williams is a top 5 offensive tackle of all time.
And they're probably I buy that argument.
Don't forget Trent Williams weighed 260 pounds when he graduated high school and was like barely he had one offer.
And then also, like, this could justifiably be 3 of the 4 members of the Big 12 wide receiver Mount Rushmore. It's hard to think about Macklin that way, but Bryant and Crabtree for sure.
It's only because Macklin didn't have the NFL success that he had in college. And he actually did I think he had a decent NFL career, but I mean, Dez and Crabtree were just not only explosive, they were polarizing.
And then a lot of what you were talking about, Ian, plays out in the all Big 12 defense that year. Roy Miller, Arakpo, Sergio Kindle, like just guys who were unleashed. And
Texas A&M had one person on that list.
The punter.
The punter.
It was not a.
That was a Mike Sherman team, right?
It was either the end of Fran or the start of Sherman.
It was the start of Sherman.
That was the first Sherman year.
Yeah, it was the start of Sherman.
And second team, Colt McCoy, Javorsky Lane, Joaquin Iglesias, Jordan Shipley. Like, that's the thing. Jordan Shipley in 2008 was second team all Big 12, and he wasn't the finalist for the Blitnikoff that year. It was the year after, I think, right?
Did they not even have Quan on here?
No, not on the second team.
Quan had like 100 catches and over 1,000 yards, like 15 touchdowns or something.
And then on defense, let's see. Who is that? Ryan Palmer gets back there for Texas. Do they have honorable? Oh, honorable mention done. Yeah, Ndamukong Suh's a second team all Big 12. And I realize this is before he became Ndamukong Suh, like the all-time great. But that, man, there was so much talent in that year in the Big 12 and then the year after. It's crazy to think about. All these guys also from Texas too. Got Charbonnet was there. Let's see. You can count more guys from Dallas than maybe from outside of the state of Texas on these.
The only thing this list tells me, I need glasses.
I was trying to get it zoomed in. Let me see if
there is no possible way. I'm just
sorry about
all
that.
Blurs to me, which I think that's probably my sign. But hey, no, we got the gist of it.
Sorry, before we move on, who was the tight end for Oklahoma State? Is he on the second team or is he like honorable mention?
He wasn't going to be on this. He wasn't going to be on this because the tight ends were loaded that year.
It was. He wasn't even on here.
No.
Hold on.
They were loaded that year.
I just had that pulled up. So let me Oklahoma State.
I swore they had a beast that year.
Ori Lemon. Ooh, I remember Ori Lemon being the athlete out of Houston that Texas liked. And they're like, hey, you need to play linebacker. And he's like, I don't want to play linebacker. He got to Oklahoma State, and they say, hey, you should play linebacker. He wound up being a really good linebacker.
Ian, it was Brandon Pettigrew.
Pettigrew. You know where he's from, Ian?
Tyler? I don't know.
Tyler, Texas.
Oh, that was a good guess.
Man, even the all big –
they love Oklahoma State used to put a giant fishing rod in East Texas, man. Dez, Bryant, Kendall Hunter. I mean, just
the honorable mentions for Texas were Quan, Cedric Dockery, Blake Gideon, Aaron Lewis, Henry Melton, Rod Muckleroy, who you didn't mention all that much of in this one.
Because Muck was more of a guy in 06, 05, 06.
No, 08 was his first big breakout.
It was a senior year. Yeah.
No, 09. He came back for one more year in 09.
But Muck is that was a Hallsville kid, another East Texas kid.
He was great.
We'll finish up with
great athlete.
This year.
Today is the start of the NCAA tournament. I think as soon as we're all done here, going to go.
Have you all done a bracket?
I did do a bracket. Have you?
Did you do one, Ian?
Uh-huh.
I've got my final four.
Let's hear them. I haven't picked mine yet.
Y'all are not going to work mine.
But I have three. But here's the thing: I want to hear y'all's final four because I haven't even looked at the bracket, but I think there's one of these three teams I'm going to tell you about is going to win the national championship this year, and I'm not even looking at the bracket or picking a final four. So y'all go first.
My final four are Duke, Houston, Arizona, and Michigan.
Duke, Houston, Arizona, Michigan. Okay, Joe went chalk. All right, Ian, go ahead.
Michigan State, Houston, Arizona, Texas Tech.
Michigan State?
Yeah.
Hey, H to the Izzo. Like,
I have a system. I don't pay attention to the season. So.
I haven't looked at the bracket. I'm going to do that right before this whole thing starts off because I like to tweet out my predicted Final Four so everybody can know what not to pick. I think I saw 3 teams play this year that can win the national championship, and y'all only named one of them: Houston, Arkansas, or Purdue. One of those 3 teams is going to win the national championship this year. One of those 3 teams. Houston's a little bit better offensively than they were last year. They're taking a step back on defense, but they are much more productive. Kingston Flemings is going to play in the NBA for 15 years. Purdue is that team that's just got veterans that just been there, the 22, 23, 24-year-olds. They all look like they work in a mine or an oil factory. They're all hardened. Braden Smith is a very, very good guard. I think Matt Painter's I saw how close they got. They're there. And then Arkansas. Acuff to me is Stephon Marbury 2.0. He has that explosiveness, and in the tournament, I think that's where that really shines. And Arkansas has some underrated bigs. Like when they play consistently well, they've got some guys there. They spend a lot of money in NIL basketball in Fayetteville, and so without looking at how the brackets line up, one of the national champions is going to come out of those 3 teams.
Joe, how far do you have Texas going?
I have them losing tonight, I think. Let me find it. I usually wait till the first 4 to make my picks. Actually, no, I always give them one extra. I pick Texas, and I have them losing to Gonzaga. So
who does Texas play if they beat BYU?
Gonzaga.
Gonzaga?
Yeah, and I don't see them getting past.
They're not going to get past BYU.
This is
Ian. Okay. If this was 2 months ago, I would wholeheartedly agree with Ian. I really would. But the thing with BYU, one of their main guys is out, and then after Absentia, they're solid, but like they're missing guys. Like this isn't the same squad that they were 2 months ago. I think that's why they fell a little bit towards the end of the season too.
I picked Hawaii over Arkansas in the first round.
I have Gonzaga over Purdue, and now I'm rethinking that because of
Joe. It's so funny. It's okay. We should have talked about this before. I'll take the blame. Joe, you're looking at the Hawaii defense. Okay, that's the no help defense, and that is about as dumb a concept as I've ever come across. I sent that out to some some basketball coaching buddies just to get some feedback. They're like, Wells, that's too extreme. You know why it works? Because against lower level guys that aren't really ISO guys, it's brilliant. You don't necessarily need help defense. Darius Acuff, you're not going to help one-on-one? Dude,
yeah,
they're going to put up 80 or 90 on that. If you let Acuff go ISO, he's going to destroy you. So I'm curious how far Hawaii's coach takes the no help defense concept, because against talent, I think that's going to be a tall task.
What about Texas? And people are talking a little bit about BYU. They do have that big injury, but they still have DeBensta, who's going to be number 1 overall probably, because I don't think anybody's looking at what's going on in Kansas and is particularly encouraged by that. And also Rob Wright, who is just filling it up at 18 a game. I think, if I remember right, when Mark Pope left BYU for Kentucky, I think they promoted internally. So I think they've got a pretty similar system, and Pope was brought in because 3-pointers, modern offense, that type of thing. I don't know. If this is,
you don't know, because it's not because of BYU. We don't know because it's Texas. Yeah. Because we've seen how Jekyll and Hyde this group can be. And the truth is, if you can get if you can get, I'm sorry, I'm laughing at Blake Bryant when I try to pronounce AJ's last name. I've butchered that many times. Swain, can you get 15 or 20? Tremont Mark, can you get 12 or 15? If you can get buckets from those guys and just play good defense, they rebounded really, really well against NC State. Like I thought that was kind of the difference in the game, obviously in the second half. And so if you can get 15 and 20 from Swain, 12 and 15 from Mark, and just get contributions from the rest of us, I love the young center. He reminds me of the Russian guy in the movie Semi-Pro. I really like that kid. I think he's got some talent. I think Texas wins. I think Texas beats BYU. I don't know about Gonzaga because it's Mark Few and he's incredible and they always recruit and develop. But I got Texas beating BYU tonight, guys.
Justin, I just flipped my picks to put Purdue all the way to the semifinal.
Brother, I'm going to tell you something. I watched Purdue's posts obliterate Michigan's bigs. And Michigan's bigs are their best players. Their two best players are down there. Purdue had no problem moving those guys around. And I was surprised Purdue's record. But then I remembered Purdue is basically the same team they were last year. So they're probably almost in cruise control in a sense. And then Painter decided, okay, it's Big Ten tournament time. And they cranked it back up to where they were last year. That's a team that kind of reminds me of that Virginia team a few years ago, gets knocked out in the first round. They return everybody. Next year, they win the national championship. Matt Painter is going to bring hardware to West Lafayette, and I think it could be this year. I hope it's not, because the Houston Cougars, I got to tell you guys, I don't think you two guys understand how important the Houston Cougars are to my family. Like, it is a big deal. Multiple Houston Cougar alum for my family. They need this national championship in basketball badly. But man, Purdue can win it this year, Boyd.
Yeah, I'm really excited to watch this and start this. I want Houston to win, but I don't know. We'll see if they've got the defensive chops that's needed. What's any good upset picks? I know I've mentioned I
haven't looked. I gotta look at this thing.
I have Hawaii over Arkansas, and then the other one I have that's big. It's so much easier to go chalk in the NCAA tournament these days. I have a couple 9-8s. I got UCF over UCLA, but like I have A&M.
What are the 5-12s?
You've got St. John's in Northern Iowa, which is a curse word in my family.
St. John's coming off another Big East tournament title too.
Vanderbilt and McNeese.
Hey, I like Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
I do. I like their guard play.
Wisconsin and High Point.
I don't know anything about either. And
then Texas Tech and Akron.
I like McCaslin. I do. I like Grant McCaslin, so I think Tech should be safe there. But here's the point. Here's something we got to ask about that. If Tech loses, does Cody Campbell get involved?
I mean, he's probably already involved. Tech's got a tough path because in that region of the bracket, Michigan, a good Georgia, good St. Louis, Bama, Tennessee, Virginia, Kentucky, Santa Clara, Iowa State. Like it's a lot of power teams right there who can give Tech, especially without Federico. Who's the forward for Tech that's hurt? That's really good.
Toppin.
Yeah, JT Toppin.
I think his brother plays in the NBA. Obi.
I don't know if they're related.
Obi-1.
But
Obi-2.
I'm excited, and I think you need to take the over for Texas. It's at 157.5, so about 85, 75.
Wait a minute. Why are you saying take the over?
Because Texas can't play defense, and if they lose, they're going to lose like 90-70.
Okay. I was okay.
We'll see. I'm glad it's. I think it's an early game, at least at night, 6:25. So not staying up too late.
I was going to ask you what time is tip off. I was worried it was going to be another late one like the other night.
6:25 on TBS.
That's perfect for our contenting purposes.
I cannot wait. So should be a lot of fun. Thank you for watching. Make sure you got that video liked. Make sure you got that channel. You're subscribed to it. And make sure you go to Inside Texas. Use that first link in our description. Use that QR code there at the top left of the screen. Get 50% off. That's On 3. That's Inside Texas. That's Rivals. We'll have more recruiting coming in a little bit. We'll also have a lot more basketball talk as we go through today. Should be a lot of fun over on IT. So Justin, Ian, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. See you next time on IT Live, presenting Academy Sports and Outdoors.